Hello, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America, where each episode we bring you a brand new interview with one of the film industry's top directors, conducted by one of their peers. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on Google Play Music, iTunes, Stitcher, or on our SoundCloud page at soundcloud.com/thedirectorscut. This episode takes us behind the scenes of director Mike Mills' new film, 20th Century Women. Loosely based on his own childhood, Mr. Mills' film tells the story of Dorothea, a single mother raising her adolescent son in Santa Barbara, California, during the height of the Cultural Revolution in 1979. To help steer him through the chaos, Dorothea calls on the help of a punk photographer, a mellow handyman, and her son's best friend to serve as role models. In addition to 20th Century Women, Mr. Mills' credits include the feature films Beginners and Thumbsucker, the documentary Does Your Soul Have a Cold, and the short films Paperboys, Architecture of Reassurance, and Deformer. After a recent screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Mr. Mills sat down with fellow director Marc Webb to discuss the making of 20th Century Women. Their conversation touched on Mr. Mills' technique of interviewing his actors as if they were the characters in the film, how dance parties the morning before rehearsal inspired the film's ending, and how he drew inspiration for 20th Century Women from the observational style filmmaking of directors Alain Resnais and Federico Fellini.
Hello. We're very close.
Yeah, I know. I like you.
Hello.
Well, yeah.
Thank you for coming. This is really amazing. I have been a Mike Mills fan for a long, long time. If you don't have the internet or have never been to Silver Lake, he is a kind of a leading. You're a graphic designer first, then he did many, many music videos, which I studied and watched and loved, and then he started making movies a few years ago, and it's been a really impressive career. Q&As are always a little bit weird, so what I did...
Wow, cards.
Well,
like
yeah,
it.
I know. I want to be prepared.
Good. Yeah.
But I thought maybe I could just... this is a very quotable movie, and so I went and watched it, and I took out some quotes that I liked, and I thought maybe you could comment, free associate.
Okay.
Tell me
could rap.
Where you could rap. You could
Should
do
I do
freestyle
beatbox
rap
while you do this part? Yeah.
Yeah. That would be impressive. Okay. I'll try to read it in verse. I'm not good at it. But tell me like where you came up with it on the day, how you executed it, or anything that it provokes for you.
Yeah.
Don't you need a man to raise a man? No, I don't think so.
Well, first of all, thanks everyone for coming to see the movie and for staying for this, and thank you so much, Mark. It's really sweet of you to do this. That was actually, we reshot that scene. We added some stuff onto that scene to make it actually stronger. I was afraid what I wrote before is very similar, but just a little less thematic, a little less expositional in a way. And I was really happy to get that line in, and that's something I added, and that's something that made me want to reshoot that scene. And I just wanted to make that point stronger. And the movie is based on my real mom, and my real mom was like a feminist before the word, would never describe herself as a feminist, but did want to be a pilot in World War II and just never fit into a typical feminine box. And she loves men, and it's nothing against men. It's just she's an incredibly practical woman. And for this boy, for this son, that's what's true. He's attracted to these two women. These two women are what's powerful. But I really liked her having the strength and the no shame, no holds barred, saying like, I don't think so. I think this is what's going to work. So
that particular line was not the no, I don't think so was not in there.
The don't you need a man to raise a man?
Okay.
Like I had ideas like that in the original go through, but it just felt like too like that's just over the top. That's too much. That's too stating the theme. But then in retrospect, that scene needed to be sharper to carry itself through the rest of the movie, to to sort of announce the movie.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And that's not that's what 5-10 minutes into the movie. It's
or more. Yeah.
more 50. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're getting a chance to know the characters before that. What other scenes did you reshoot? That's really interesting.
Oh, it's a secret.
Okay. I think if you ever feel if there's anything too personal,
part of that scene is what exists. The part on the beach but then that part in the kitchen, I just added some stuff to it to beef it, to heighten it.
Right, because it seemed like the same scene. It was so beautifully merged because they begin the conversation on the beach. Or was it a pre-lap or was that a?
No, so that beach scene had that whole scene in it. And I also did it in the kitchen.
I see.
And then I redid it with more in the kitchen.
Uh-huh.
But that beach scene had a whole lot of dialogue in it. But I was like, I wasn't positive if that was the right way to go, so I covered the dialogue in two different places.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
It felt very. I only noticed this time around. This thing the third time I've seen it, and where that it seemed the idea seemed so. That scene seemed so smooth.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it was kind of set up in two different scenes until this time. It's about strength and your durability against the other emotions, and durability against the other emotions.
So that's something that Elle says in the creek. So that's interesting. So Elle, part of the homework I gave her as a director was read The Road Less Traveled. I don't know if anyone's ever read that, but it's like a very seminal classic 70s sort of self-help therapy book. And I said, pick a couple things and be able to paraphrase it to me, be able to tell me it in Julie's words, what this book is saying. And at any moment, I'm going to say to you, tell it to Jamie on camera, And the thing what she says about love isn't a real thing. It's a feeling that you feel like you're falling in love, but that's a mistake and no one should ever get married. So that's Elle not improvising, but in her own words, restating what she learned from the book, And similarly, that is a combination of what she learned from the book. And as part of my process, I don't always do this, and it sounds a little heavy-handed, but in the rehearsal process, at times, if it feels like doable, I'll interview Elle Fanning as Julie, and I'll ask Julie questions, and Elle will respond as Julie, and just sort of play. And it's not like that sounds so actory, but it's actually really interesting and fun. And so Elle had this whole thing about how Julie doesn't want to feel sensitive or doesn't want to feel vulnerable at any time, and that's her deal. And we worked that out a little bit. And I love Mike Lee and Mike Lee's process, which is a very, extended version of what I'm doing a little bit. And she came up with that thing, or she just started saying that about strength is the most important thing. It's not about knowing what you feel. It's not about being sensitive. It's about avoiding those feelings. What do you want to be, happy or have all your feelings? That's what she said. She didn't say it in the movie, but she said that. So when we were in the creek and we had shot all our stuff out and we had a little time left, and actually the camera was leaving and I was like, stop. And the camera plopped down and it kind of was like right that view. And that rock was right there. And I just had him sit on the rock and start to just chat and try different things. And I asked her to do that.
So there was a improvisation. The screenplay was very alive. Then it sounds like where it began and where it ended required, it seems like, a lot of input from the other actors. I mean, you had a murderer's row of actresses. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah. Well, it's very much to the script, but then I also like finding moments like that. Mm-hmm. And funnily, you pick two moments that are sort of like off-piste a little bit. But I think it brings it to life if you can have a slightly heterogeneous approach. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just totally the page. Sometimes you tell them one line to do different every single take. Sometimes you, like this thing in the creek where it's like, just do it in your own words, and it's something that we researched, and tell me about that again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. This is my favorite one. We're connected to the dirt because we came from the dirt. The dirt is made of stars and stardust the same way we are. So when you put your hands into the dirt and feel the earth mother.
Okay, you picked all the improvising parts. It's interesting. So that's Billy improvising, and that's part of the research again. So I do 2 weeks of rehearsal, and we don't do the script a lot. We do like a scene a day, and I figure out things that lead up to that scene, like all the experiences of these characters that led up to that scene. And we do improvising and just different ways to make it be felt and experiential. So Billy did lots of ceramics classes. And I remember once me and Greta and Lucas were downstairs in my office.
Billy the actor.
Billy Crudup is doing ceramics upstairs in the kitchen, pounding away at clay. And downstairs, me and Greta and Lucas are dancing. And he got really into this researching clay and ceramics and the whole deal and what it is. And he's actually quoting from some book that he read as part of his research alone. I didn't give him the book. And that's another moment. It's a really similar moment where we got ahead a little bit, and I was just being ambitious. And I wanted to sort of see those two together before they're going to have their sexual moment together. And they did some things that I set up really quickly, and then they did some things they just kind of extended from there.
It brings up like slightly non sequitur, but I'm thinking you brought up Mike Leigh and his process. How have you evolved, or what have you learned between Thumbsucker and this movie? Did you do that with Thumbsucker as well?
I did, and I loved it. And I had Tilda Swinton and Vincent D'Onofrio in that movie, and they loved that. Yeah. Like, they were so down for that and so great at it, and we all discovered so many things together that was really interesting. And I've taken different acting classes, like from Greta Seacat or Joan Shekel, and you do a lot of that kind of stuff. You're making it experiential and not sort of in your head. And I respond to that a lot. And I feel like as a director relating to actors, it's such of course, you need to be able to articulate anything. And as the writer-director, I'm very happy to articulate anything. I love articulating or talking about the history or sort of the more rational side of it. But then to get to the good stuff, you got to dip into the irrational side and the sort of more magical, intuitive side. And that's really key, I find. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go to the next one. You don't ask people questions like that. One of the confounding and really fun things about movies is this person who wants deeply to connect to somebody but is so unwilling to share themselves. And it's this real tragic intersection. I'm answering my own. I'm having my own free association. But tell me about that. You don't ask people questions like that.
Well, that's my mom.
She jokes it off. Or she makes a joke of it.
Yeah. So that scene, that's all scripted. So that whole scene, that's a scene in the kitchen, and she says, asking if you're happy is a great shortcut to being depressed and all that. So that's all just from the script. And that was like shot day one, I think, of our shoot. I shoot in order, again, to sort of do everything I can to enable the actors to have like a real experience. And that's very much my mom. My mom was born in 1925, and that generation of people, you don't ask them about their inner lives. And I'm sort of a 70s kid. And my first girlfriend's mother was a therapist, and we did teen group therapy together and beat a wooden stump with a rolled up magazine. So like I've been exposed to that, right? And I'm trying to find out more about my mom, because me and my mom were very interwoven and very close and very kicking around alone a lot, and that was like our main struggle in life, and that was sort of like one of the cruxes of this story.
How do you shooting in order is it's a very difficult thing to get. What do you have to sacrifice in order to do that? I mean, the production concerns are enormous, and everybody kind of presumes that you're going to go in and shoot out of order, and they kind of scoff at the idea often, I find, to shoot something in order. How did you achieve that?
Well, my AD, Rod Smith, is pretty genius, and this is our second film together, but we've done lots of ads together, and he knows that I'm into this way. And not only am I shooting in order as much as I can, it's not everything's in order, obviously, but like that house, we shot for 3 weeks in the house at the beginning. We shot pretty much in page order. And the other thing I do is I use a lot of natural light. So, for instance, in that house, weeks before, months before, when we're in prep, as soon as we have the house, we do light studies. So every room, looking in every direction, take a picture about every 15 minutes. Then we make this big book that shows like every angle at every time. And then me and the DP kind of pick like, this scene, we're nowhere in this room, it'd be great to be here at this time. And somehow Rod makes it work. I really don't understand quite how he makes it work. And it's really, it's all him to make that actually pull that off. But the other ingredient is I use very little lighting. I use a few kinos, and the rest of the units are just built into the ceiling or practicals. So a room is sort of like a Gordon Willis style, like you light for the room, not for the face. And once you spend a day or two getting set up, you're kind of done, and the units are sort of sitting there. And except for laying down dolly track, which we laid so much down on this movie, you can move around pretty easily.
Yeah. There is a Mike Mills aesthetic. You can look at the videos that you made for Air or for Pond or for back to the album artwork that you did. What is that? How would you define that? And how do you maintain it in a movie?
I don't know exactly what it is that you're talking about. Well,
I can get specific, but I'm more interested in what you think it is.
It's me, I guess. It's like, I don't know, like specifically what are you talking about?
I mean, you're photographing things and the compositions are very graphic.
Mm-hmm.
Very rarely are you ever using handheld cameras.
Mm-hmm.
You use a lot of natural lighting.
Mm-hmm.
There is in Thumbsucker there was more like the pans, but there's that. It's a very austere way of making a movie, graphic, aesthetically speaking,
and very like European. So, like, I went to art school. I didn't go to film school. In art school, when they have the Friday night film class, what do they show? They show Resnais, Fellini, Truffaut. They show all that, and that's what left a huge imprint on me. And Fellini has a huge imprint to me on this film, like Amarcord and 8.5. So that style of filmmaking is more observational and sort of rigid and sort of. The camera's trying to be rigorous. There's a certain set of rules that you follow through the whole thing.
And what are those rules?
Well, it varies per film. Like on my last film, Beginners, everything in the past with Christopher Plummer and Ewan McGregor was lock off or very static tracking shot. Because like memories, you can't really look around inside your memories. You have one view that you kind of tend to repeat, you know. And then the present part of that story with Melanie Laurent and Ewan McGregor was handheld and no marks and lights only in the ceiling, so you could do 360 wherever room you're in. This film, it was much more like just move the camera at all times because I have a lot of pieces. This film was made out of so many little bits, so many separate units. Camera movement is going to be part of what glues it together and keeps it as one flow. And to be, it's not like the camera movement isn't like very fast. But for me, it's a much more immersive style, actually, than I think anything I'd done before, in a way. There's more, there's more to sort of come with me, follow me into the scene.
Well, the fire truck scene at the very beginning, they're sitting on, you're pushing in on her side, and there's this, are you pushing during the entire take on the wide shot? And then on his side, there was no push.
Yeah. There's no push on his side, on her. It's just for her lines, not on the whole thing. So it's just towards the end we push in.
Yeah. I see.
That to me, it's like The War Is Over by Resnais. The tracking in that movie is so specific and beautiful and graceful and like elegant and like thought out. And me and Sean Porter thought about that a lot. And Fellini's tracking stuff, it's so interesting and complex, and it's not preconceived. So often when you lay track, you think like, the shot's this, and therefore I'm laying track to achieve this. You can tell Fellini blocked the scene with the actors and then conceived of the tracking shot. Because often it's going on both sides of the track, or he'll do a weird compound thing. So you can tell he came up with the blocking first and then found a way to like cinematize it. So we were trying to do that a bit and thought about Resnais a lot. And then I did do a lot of work as a graphic designer, and I do love the sort of, and Gordon Willis's work, I just watched All the President's Men on the airplane, and like that is an incredibly rigorously framed movie. Every frame is just like a perfect piece of art. And Gordon Willis is probably has the biggest influence on me of anything. Like just that he makes movies for the edit, and that, again, that sort of, I don't know, the attention to the composition as being so much of the storytelling.
The editing process, there's so many scenes in the movies, in this movie, and so many details and so many moments of her reacting to something that happened in a scene where she's alone, and there's time cuts within scenes. is incredibly complex. You can't have conceived of that or processed that beforehand, could you? You must have.
Some of it, a lot of it I did.
Yeah.
And I like thinking like that. It's hard for me to think in normal time.
Mm-hmm.
Normal time is what screws me up.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking like interlacing three things, that's easy.
Yeah.
Or going back and forth, that's easy. Just sticking with it is, I find that to be such a construct. Mm-hmm. Linear time in filmmaking, I find to be, that's the craziest construct everyone ever invented. Because like our real time in our head, our like emotional time is like really, really different, you know? I wrote a lot of like there's when he's reading to her, It Hurts to Be Alive and Obsolete, the Zoe Moss essay. It's about being a middle-aged woman. And it's kind of a montage. You see a bunch of different things. It's all pretty much scripted out. And the order maybe changed a little bit, but it's easy for me to think like that as a writer. And some other things we did flop around or find a little play, but it'd be a certain set of shots that I planned out. A lot of times when I'm writing, I'll do a dialogue, and on the left side is like whatever narration's going on. On the right side, it just says visuals and a numbered set of visuals that go with that scene.
The screenplay format doesn't really fit that.
Yeah, or the speed that I know I'm going to go at. If I laid it out all normally, it would take like 3 pages, and it would be deceiving of how it's going to play.
It's funny, like when you do shorter form work, I think you get really used to not working in the screen, more storyboards, more visual cues to help you do that. I think that must have informed the process for you.
Yeah, I guess so. I just did it on this movie because the last movie had a little bit of that, like these little lyrical essay moments. And I did them more normally, and it just, I had to explain to everybody like, oh, you're reading it, and it's taking like a page, but it's going to be like 30 seconds, I promise you. And so that was this constant translation I was doing. So when I started to write this film, I was like, I got to find a different way.
So in order to communicate to your crew and your production staff how you do how you're going to do that, did the screenplay itself look different? It looked like it was split in half, and you
just in those like narrated parts, and where you see a lot of things flying by. So there, I did the dual dialogue thing,
right?
And it scared the hell out of everybody because it's like, how do you organize that? You know, like how did that? What does that really mean? Right. And a lot of it wasn't just like all the found footage, all the historical stills, they're easy to indicate like that, and people can understand that. But when it's like a live action scene with your key actors, they're like, what? You know, it's like, it's just half a sentence over there. And any smart AD is like, what does that mean? Right. So it was a lot of like vetting.
They're assuming you're going to shoot 360 degrees.
Yeah,
and there's going to be 18 extras, and they have to like put a car through the window.
Yeah.
So the lyrical essays, I mean, the music, you know, the score, there's a lot of needle drops, obviously, but the score seemed to align or seemed to indicate these essays more often than not. I mean, was there a rule to you using that music, the score? I mean,
the original score stuff. Well, the original score is not always when there's a narrated sequence. Obviously, when there is a narrated sequence, it really helps hold all the pieces together. And a film built of so many sort of heterogeneous pieces really benefits from a bed to put it in and to tell you this is one section. You know, so it was obviously really helpful. And I wanted, you know, again, for me, as I feel like I'm revealing how waspy I really am. For me, I was trying to make like an immersive movie, and I get that it's not for everybody, but it's like I was trying to be a little lush in a way, and so that's why, to me, there's like an ample amount of original score in the movie. And we realized like, we had this DJ song by David Bowie, and we had the Talking Head stuff, and Brian Eno is the producer of all this music, and Brian Eno is so influential in the 70s in his electronic music. We kept listening to that, and his instrumentation, his Selena, these really specific synthesizers, and Roger Neal, the composer that I work with, he's really sensitive to that and gets how that impacts everything. So weirdly, our score is completely period correct.
Yeah, it's fun. It's interesting because I thought it seemed from a different era, but it is all that Eno stuff was. It was the beginning of that kind of atmospheric.
And I feel like it sounds so. To me, at least, it sounds so relevant, the Eno stuff. So it wasn't like And in lots of ways, I was trying to make a film about 79 that related to now, or wasn't stuck in some sort of kitsch nostalgia ghetto, you know. And so Eno was a great way. And the Talking Heads, I feel like the Talking Heads are so relevant and influential, and their music's so
Clear
alive.
what side you were on in that
Yeah,
argument.
Yeah.
All right, I got another one. Apropos of that,
Yeah.
they've got all this feeling, and they don't have any skill, and they don't want skill because it's really interesting what happens when your passion is bigger than the tools. You have to deal with it.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. So just so you know, that's a reshoot scene too. And that is Greta Gerwig talking to Annette Bening about the Raincoats, which is a great all-woman band from 79, and that song came out in 79. And there's a really amazing Grail Marcus sort of short essay about the Raincoats, and it's called The Process of Punk. And he's kind of saying basically that. So I sort of paraphrase that down to the key moments and give it to Greta. And it's both talking about the Raincoats, but it's also talking about what's going to threaten Dorothea later in the story, sort of like raw emotion, raw feeling, and things that are out of your control. And that's why they're good, is because they're out of control. So it was a really great, I was very happy to align this analysis or look at punk with a look at the emotional differences or the different kind of cultural, historical, emotional people in my film through the sort of punk lens.
Yeah. You brought up Greta Seacat earlier, who I know as well and have worked with a little bit. Tell me what you learned from that process.
So Greta, does anybody know Greta Seacat, or you ever done her classes? She does acting classes in New York, and she's really great and really hard-ass person, right? Like, she's not going to let you fake anything or get away with it. So I took a class just as an actor, you know, and she makes
When did you do this? Like
long time ago, before
way
Thumbsucker.
Before Thumbsucker. Okay.
Yeah. And so, like, early 2000. And just to scare myself, to be more emotional.
How did you hear about it? Where did,
from Chris, from the Coppolas, were friends with her. So from a director friend who used her. And she's just, I wanted to understand what it was like to act more, because I understood that my movies are going to be very performance-centric, and it behooved me to understand it better. And to not do like a director, you know, there's lots of like director workshops where you work with actors as a director. And I was like, I want to be an actor, and I want to see what it's like, and just try it. It's only 2 weeks, you know, and it's scary as hell and great for that reason. And I'm like a formerly very shy person, so I always feel very enamored with actors and their ability to be unself-conscious, and I'm like their first great fan on set, you know. And it just made me all the more so, like all the more admiring of the imaginative, deep trick that it's not a trick at all. It's very authentic what they're able to do.
Mm-hmm. What were you afraid of
in this movie?
Before you set out to make the movie?
Oh, so it's based on my mom, and the Greta character is based a lot on my sister, and the L is based on these women I knew, and the Jamie character, he's not imitating me, but he's doing things I did. So being sentimental, being unconsciously sentimental.
Let me ask, what is that? That word comes up a lot. What is that? What is sentimental? What does that mean to you?
In a case like this, it would be like, you know, unconsciously asking the audience to feel pity for you, or feel for you, or to have a too romantic version of these people in your life because they were your mom or your sister or whatever, or to not understand that you weren't being penetrating enough, or to do a memoir. And I wanted to. There's so many writer-directors have used personal life to make a more catching film for public and for public consumption, and just to make a better movie. And from Sosbo to Truffaut to Fellini to so many people that I admire, I feel like I've always wanted to be like them. Then these crazy events happened in my life that sort of showed me that, like, my dad came out of the closet when he was 75, so like then there came beginners. And then in that movie I saw my mom and how strange my mom was, how unlike other moms my mom was in her whole philosophy. And so that felt like I had the best chance to tell a good story to everyone, to report on human life from a unique perspective, but the goal is to tell a story, not to like do therapy in public. Yeah.
It wasn't it never felt like a tribute. I mean, it felt pretty tough, which has to be hard when you're dealing with people that have been close to you in that way.
It helps when they've been passed away for a long time,
Yeah.
and you've had a lot of therapy.
Uh-huh.
And I feel confident that I made the movies with love, so I don't feel like that helps, you know. My previous movie about my dad was quite grandiose and would love to have a movie made about him with Christopher Plummer making him, you know. My dad would love to see a movie with an elderly gay man, you know. My mom's a more secretive creature, and it was a harder thing in my head to allow myself to do.
Why is it, I want to talk more about the character, not necessarily your mother, but why is it so hard for people to reveal themselves in that way? Why was it so hard for her?
If you know anybody from the 20s who's born in the 20s, it's just culturally not cool. It's not how they're brought up, and they don't have language for it, and it's kind of shameful, and especially to bring up anything you don't feel great about or feel vulnerable about or have conflict about. It definitely just wasn't in their family education and their culture. That wasn't how you do it. Like Humphrey Bogart does not talk about his feelings, and my mom was basically Humphrey Bogart, you know, right. And so yeah, you're not going to get Humphrey to admit that he's sad.
And but Thumbsucker had a similar theme with Lou Taylor Pucci's character, you know, and Kelly Garner trying to push him to be open in a way. I mean, in a way that I like. Boy, when I was that age, I wouldn't have the capacity, the vocabulary, maybe even the interest to be that open. But it's a theme. I don't know. Was that in Beginners as well? Not as much.
Yeah. It's in there, but it's not like quite as expressed in the same way. And the dad's coming out has exploded this closeness that previously was there and infuses the story, but it's not what the story is about. Yeah. They're sort of like after the explosion of all that, not talking about stuff. Yeah.
All right, I got some more quotes here. I'm going to skip that one. I think history has been tough on men. That's a intense statement to have in a movie about women. That's really brave.
Well, if you're born in 25 and you love people like Humphrey Bogart and it's 1979, from her perspective, I feel like, and she loves men, and so she's like, if you love people like Humphrey Bogart, as my real mom did and as this character does, that kind of version of a man just kind of can't exist in 79. It's like culturally obsolete, but they haven't figured out where they're going next, you know? That's what she continued to say. And that felt very like the film isn't all about my mom, but my mom is the North Pole of that character. Yeah. So if she said something that aligned with my mom's true perspective, I always felt like I'm on to something. And that this felt like something my mom would have said.
How did you court Annette Bening? How did you interact with her? How did you get her to do the movie? How did you collaborate with her?
Yeah, well, and that was just the best thing that happened. Luckily, she disliked the script, so it's just like that was there. And we had this great dinner, and I was really excited that she's a mom of 4 kids. She's had a really complex motherhood, you know, and she was in an interested way poking around about Dorothea. Why'd she do this? If she does that, why'd she do that? She's kind of wrapping her head around her contradictions, because there's a lot of contradictions to that character, and from a mother's perspective and a woman's perspective. And that excited me a lot, because I felt like, oh, this isn't just an actor talking to me. This is a woman, a middle-aged woman who's I've gotten under her skin a little bit, you know, my script has, in a good way, and just got her curiosity, and she was kicking the tires pretty hard. And that to me was a great sign. That to me meant like we're engaged, and it's gonna get into your blood system, and that's what I hope for most. And she liked it, and that was such a huge compliment to me. And there's probably writer directors here, like, I don't care who you are, you're so insecure when you're sending your script out in the world, and it's not an easy thing, and to have someone who's done such amazing work and worked with so many amazing directors to like it was like a huge, gust of wind in my sails. And then, the main thing to her, and she got it immediately, was, just because this has a personal source, we can't treat it preciously. It's your character now. Of course, I'm here to help as much as I can, but it's your deal now. Like you need to know about her as much as I do. So I was doing everything I could to sort of empower and give it to her. And she was great. Like, she wanted to hear all about my mom, and she loved hearing stories, just to pick up little details. But it was always like as a by any means necessary method. It'd be like, if it helps, if there's something that like feeds you, great. If not, move on. Don't worry. And then they're both Geminis, so they were perfect for each other. Like, Geminis really are like that. They're like kind of secretive. You don't know what they're going to do next. And if you look at all of Annette's work, she's really got this like rebellious streak to her, and she's a very strong woman, and she has this, like I always say, like she's like deliciously, attractively non-compliant. She's not gonna do what you tell her to do. And that's exactly what this character is all about. So that way it felt really good. And she was interesting in rehearsal. I have this long rehearsal process.
How long is the rehearsal process?
2 weeks, and like every day for 2 weeks. That feels long. Yeah. And she isn't going to show you a lot. And when we're improvising, that's cool. But you're not like fully the character when you're improvising. You're sort of experimenting and playing and all that. And that's fine with me. My idea of rehearsal isn't to nail the character, but to enrich in what's going to happen in a minute when you're shooting. But it was a little spooky because I was like, well, I haven't seen any Dorothea for like the first week. I haven't seen any Dorothea, and she just kind of smiles. She's like, it's okay. I was like, well, that's a lot like my mom. Okay. That seems right. And it was like that. Yeah.
That, incredible.
And then she's just so good too. Once you get rolling, you just know like, okay, wow, this is someone that's working on such a high level of lifiness, like a high level of nuance, and surprising the other actors with different takes, or just following the flow. If something falls off a table, she just goes with it, and she's hunting for the thing that's going to make each take specific in its own, not a construction. She's looking for like what makes it real, and that's my favorite kind of acting at all.
Were you rehearsing in the location?
We did for like a day or two.
Yeah.
And we had these dance parties every morning because music's such a part of the movie.
Yeah.
And then dancing is such a great way to get to know other people. Mm-hmm. And we danced all the different kind of music that's in the film. And we went into that house and we danced to Glenn Miller, and they danced all around that house. Oh. And it was really beautiful. And they started like dancing with each other in different groupings and chaining partners. And watching that made me go, oh, that's what they should do in the hotel room at the end. Mm-hmm. At that point, they were just going to watch TV in the end in my script. And seeing that, I was like, oh, that's like a physicalization of their connection, which is not going to stay forever. This moment of grace connection thing that's going to dissipate.
She must have been familiar. I was thinking about this. Annette must have been familiar with that era. I mean, that was her era in the 70s. I mean, she
was Greta's age-ish. Yeah. She was like 21-ish. And she's a Californian. She grew up in San Diego. Mm-hmm. So she could really relate. And she had some William boyfriends, know? So and Greta too. Greta's from Sacramento, went to New York to go to school. And it would be nothing more scary for Greta than to move back to Sacramento, So she could really relate to that. And then Elle, too. Elle's such a pretty, blonde, gorgeous, shining person. She has a lot of intensity and depth and other stuff going on, but we all tend to write off very pretty women as sort of like these little objects. And Elle was really gravitated towards the character from the first time we talked about it. And when I first met her, I was like, but Elle, you're so happy. You're so together. How can you play this person who's got so much other stuff going on? She's like, I'll just figure it out. And I just she had such confidence about it. I was like, okay. And as soon as we started rehearsing, I was like, wow, okay, I didn't know how right you really were for this. Yeah.
The scene in the car where she's, playing the therapist and talking about compartmentalizing. there's this moment where she like puts on a adult face,
Mm-hmm.
an adult mask. It's really incredible. There's so many reactions of the actors in this movie that just feel so incredibly specific. And really, I mean, you can't conduct that. It has to emerge from some place.
Yeah, you can't over direct it at
Mhm.
all. That's why the rehearsal thing is so important to me. You're giving them as much information to feedback on and trying to make it as experiential as it can, so they've felt a lot by the time you first turn the camera on, you know, and they've explored a lot, so that even if stuff's wrong, that's fine, that's great. You're understanding it's wrong, or there's something about the wrongness that actually helps you understand what's right about the character. And then when you're shooting, I try to make my direction as minimal as I can.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of directing that goes on, but I never tell anyone to do anything.
Yeah.
You know, like I try to just remind someone of where they're going or what they felt before, or just tempo things. Especially with actors like that, they're so on fire with each other. You know,
Yeah.
if anything, you're just trying to like get them to bounce off each other more.
Yeah.
You know?
How do you work in something like that when there's so much improvisation? You have two sides, and you want to keep a track of like the tiny little details of the performance, and somebody's reacting to one. And
well, it's not really that much improvisation like that. Like, I think like 80% of the movie is just straight up off the script, and then there's another 10% where there's this scene. There's like that car scene you just talked about. That's all just the script. There's nothing.
Right, yeah.
You know, maybe in the edit we took out a couple lines.
Yeah, sure.
But it's. But then there's scenes like the menstruation dinner party. So that's mostly scripted.
Bringing the men back into menstruation.
That's mostly scripted. Greta added a couple things, and Billy added something based on what he heard from Greta. But it's like, and we get going, we do like 5 takes, and be like, okay, now this line right here, just say something different every take. And so that really, if it has to be different every take, it turns everyone back on, because no one knows what they're going to say.
Yeah.
Both the listener and the person who's speaking, and the whole table. So it's a great way to like get everyone's attention again. And if you have to keep inventing, the person's really thinking, you know, and that just, camera loves that, you know. So yeah.
What do you think is the biggest misunderstanding or misconception people have about directing a movie?
Oh, that's funny. That's interesting. Who? Like people don't work in the film industry, you mean?
Sure.
Well, I know a lot of people work, two answers. One, I know a lot of people work in the industry that think like your shoot days are hard, or like when you're actually shooting, your 35 days of shooting, whatever it is, that's the hard part. That's the fun part. That's like when I'm most healthy, most happy, most in love, most everything. I adore it. It's like a gift from heaven, and it's the easiest part of my whole life, those 35 days. And what sucks is in the 5 years it took to make those films, there's only those 35 days. That's some bad math, you know, that I don't know. That's an interesting question. Here's something I find fascinating about it that I feel very honored about, or something, or it's kind of magical thing that involves history, is that it's a role. It's not just you as the individual. You are fulfilling, it's like being the president of the United States. It's like, it's a role that all these other amazing people have done and then kind of handed down to you. And every day on set, I wear a suit and a tie to kind of honor the tradition that, you know, I'm a part of. And I find that, and it's so hierarchical, right? It's crazily, a film set is crazily hierarchical, and people put so much weird faith into you. And I find that just kind of this incredible thing that's like very human, faith-based community that happens, you know, on set. That's, again, you didn't earn it on day one. You maybe earn it on day 5 or whatever. And that's such an honor that people just put you there, you know. And that's a trip, I find.
All right, excellent. I think we are good. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you so much for coming. Thanks, man. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. Check out past episodes of the podcast by subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts or on our website at dga.org/podcast. We'll have a lot more episodes coming your way over the next several weeks, so stay tuned. If you haven't already, please subscribe to The Director's Cut on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, or our SoundCloud page so you won't miss an episode. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a review. We'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks for listening, and have a great week. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.